All right, on this part of the book marketing series on the Garlic Marketing Show, we're going to talk about getting clients from your book from zero book to 90 days out with Steve Gordon. Steve, thanks for being on the Garlic Marketing Show.
Hey, Ian, thanks for having me.
And we're talking about how Steve wrote a book and failed to write a book. Then he outlined a book in 7 days, grew from solo agency to 5,000 potential clients. We're talking about the worst way to write a book, the fact that most people don't read the whole book and how to do it, how he did a pre-launch recently and had affected his book, and what I love, the unsexiest way to market your book, and how $5 doing that got that author in front of 250 prospects. All this on the Garlic Marketing Show. Let's get started. So Steve, we're going to talk about books, and I want to talk about how, I love it. You've got an unsexy tactic, because I think unsexy tactics are the ones that usually work the best because no one destroys them, because no one goes out and sells a ton of them. So, but before we get into that, tell me about how you decided, how you realized books were a great way to market your business.
Well, it was really by accident. I mean, I kind of knew that a book was a great way to position yourself as an expert. And I started my current business, which is business number 2, in 2010. So as we're recording this, what's that, about 12 years ago? And went for a couple of years and was getting clients, and it was working, and was really ready to kind of level up. And I knew I needed to write a book. And I had tried a couple of times and failed. And a lot of people have that experience. They'll try to write it and it goes in the garbage. And I heard this interview. I wish I could remember who the heck it was. It was a podcast interview, and the guy was describing how he got all of his clients from a book. I'm like, oh, there's a clue. I'm on the right track. And then he laid out exactly how he broke down the whole process of writing the book. And I'm like, that's what I need. And so I took that process. I went and outlined what was my first book, Unstoppable Referrals, in about 6 or 8 hours on a Saturday, and then started writing the next day. 30 days later, I had the book done. And then we published it a couple of months after that. Had just a handful of people, 15 partners that I'd built relationships with, share the book. And we had about 5,000 copies go out the door in the first week. And it transformed my business literally overnight. So, I'm in Tallahassee, Florida. For those that don't know, Tallahassee is the 11th largest market in Florida, which means it ain't a big place. And at the time, I was a 1.5 person little local marketing consulting firm, and we were sort of making it. We was sort of 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And we launched the book, and we go from having a total database of prospects of under 1,000 to the book gets out to 5,000 people in a week all over the world. Now we're an international presence. I start getting invited to go be, paid to speak at events, which was a new thing. Before that, I was paying my own way, and I was in the smallest breakout room they could find, when I'd go speak. I'd get invited to podcasts, and all kinds of things started happening. Prospects started chasing us down. And that was when I finally realized, this is the deal. This is the thing that unlocks it all.
It is. I want to talk a little bit about the process a little bit, but I really want to talk about, the mentality of how you went into the book to create a book that, makes you an authority. Because I think a lot of people publish a book and also it just sits there too and doesn't make them an authority, doesn't get them 5,000 leads, like you said. What was the difference in the book that you outlined versus books that just sit on the shelf and don't do anything?
Honestly, the big difference was I had built relationships with people that had my audience prior to launching the book. And I didn't build a lot of them. A lot of times people will say, well, that's the reason why I can't start the book. So I have to wait. I only had 15 people that shared that book. And, and so having those relationships to help me get it out was key. And what most people think is I've got to have this amazing, best-selling quality book to do that. You need to have a good book. It needs to represent your expertise. But the most important thing is you need to have the damn book. If you don't have the book, you no one will get excited. And that's what our clients find as we're helping them write their book and launch it. The first few times they start to share the book, and it clicks, people get so really sincerely excited for you because you've done something that honestly a lot of business owners dream about. If they don't tell you, it's because they're ashamed they haven't done it yet. But I talk to more people that say, writing a book's been on my bucket list for 10 years or 20 years or whatever. They've always had it in the back of their mind. So now you've reached this aspirational level that they want to reach. And it creates this buzz and excitement. So just having the book to me is the thing that unlocks it.
Wow. Yeah. And it's getting it out there. And that's why people hire, I think one of the most important things is like, it takes a team really to really, you did this before, but having a team really helps get the book out on time and faster, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It makes everything easier. I think that's true for everything in business, but certainly with a book, there are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of different skill sets you've got to master to get it out. So it's helpful to have a team around you. Yeah,
I think because you said it was getting it out, but I bet you that a lot of people listening have this mindset of that there's this author, and they go into a place, they write the book, and they get it out there. And that's just not how it works, is it?
That's the worst way to do it. There really aren't any books that ever get stuck at the third draft. They always get stuck in the first draft. And having somebody that can look at what you're doing and has some experience around that and can give you feedback and tell you, yeah, this is landing and this is not, and can give you that encouragement to keep going, I think is a big deal. People that try and do it alone often get stuck. And then they don't get the book out. And the point is not to write the book. The point is to have the book.
Yep, exactly. I've heard from people too that only 10% or most people won't read only 10% of the book. Do you feel that's true? Is that a real stat? Is this one of those stats that was made up on the spot? I don't know. I don't find actual data on it.
Yeah, I think based on the data that I've seen on Kindle readership, it would indicate that whether it's 10% or 12% or 20%, the point is that most people don't read whole books. And of course, those stats are all books. So now if we're talking about a business book, maybe those statistics change a little bit, but what people don't read is they don't read boring books. And most busy people don't want to read a long book. I got to tell you, I got a book recommended to me a couple of weeks ago, really excited. And I went and right away, which is what I do anytime I get a book recommendation, I ordered it on Amazon. 3 days later, it was in the mailbox and I go and get it. We were about to go on a trip and I thought, oh, great. I'm going to have some quiet time. I can read this. I get it out of the mail and it's like 350 pages. And it's not a terribly long book, but I'm like, oh, now this is a project. And what I like to help our clients write books that when their future client looks at it, they don't go, oh, this is a project. I want them to sit down with a cup of coffee and maybe one refill and be able to get through the thing.
Yep. No, I think that's great. I think that's a great way of looking at it because I can't tell you how many business books. There's certain ones I listen to, and I listen to most of them over and over again, but then I have the Kindle and I'll reread it. But most of them, I'm like, I get like 25, 30% of the way through, and I'm like, if it's not clicking with me, I'm like, and that's no good. And so tell me about the first time I want to come back because I always like the story of people knowing that it's working. What was the first time you realized your first book was working? You sent it out, you get 5,000 people. What was the first thing you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever done?
So the first day, well, first of all, I made the mistake of picking a launch date that also coincided with an international vacation. We were in Costa Rica at the time on a little dial-up internet. And I'm sitting there trying to refresh the browser and look at the Amazon stats over this dial-up internet. The first few hours, not a lot happened. But then later in the day, you could see that, okay, some of my partners had mailed about it and we were starting to see the sales pick up. And, there's a little lag in the stats. You start to see that acceleration. You're like, wow, people like the book. The first reviews started coming in. And which was a few days later, and they were really positive, and that was really helpful. But even before all of that, when I was talking with these partners and trying to kind of get people to help me. And I would send them a preview copy of the book, and they'd read it and they'd be like, wow, this is amazing. In fact, one guy told me, like, he's like, this is the first new thinking on referrals in decades. This is amazing. And I was like, wow, that's pretty big praise. This is a well-known marketer who was telling me this. I thought, well, that's pretty good. So yeah, there were those early signs, and, but then the phone starts to ring, and so it's not just about getting the book out there, but all of a sudden now the phone starts to ring, or people start inquiring, and you go, yeah, this thing's got legs. It's a great feeling.
It's similar. And I hear this from our clients when, they've got a robust YouTube channel and they get the call and it's like, I just, you're the one, right? And people are pre-sold, and it's such a good feeling when people are pre-sold and working with you and you're the authority already, instead of having to build that authority and them questioning everything along the way, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And, going back to your question about consumption, they don't need to read the book. So I think there are 4 levels of prospect qualification around a book. The first level is they don't even get a copy of it, but they see that you're an author. And because they see that you're an author, you're elevated in your stature and authority, and that might be enough to attract them. The second level is that they get a copy of the book, but they never read it. We had this happen one time. It was about a year after the launch of that first book. And a guy in the UK gets on my calendar. I guess this must have been about 3 years after the launch of that first book. Guy in the UK gets on my calendar and opens up the call saying, in his British accent, I've got your book. I've not read it. I'm never going to read it. And I need your help. And I'm like, well, this is the strangest way to start a sales call. And he said, a buddy of mine gave me the book about 2 years ago, and I put it on my nightstand, and it's been sitting on my nightstand. And I know I'm not going to read it. It's been 2 years, but I need what it says on the cover. Your name's on it. You're my guy. Easiest sale ever. And that's one of the things I like about books. I mean, all kinds of digital media is great, but books are unique in that they allow you to own physical real estate in your prospect's world. So if I look at my desk and the bookshelf that's behind me, all of those authors own a little piece of real estate in my world. I'm forced to interact with it, either passively or actively, on a regular basis. And that's very different than, for example, an ebook. And I love ebooks. My Kindle is full, but if you're using an ebook in your marketing, everybody has that folder on their computer where those PDFs go to die. You don't want to be there.
No, and I agree, and that's what we talked. Mark Stern's episode is part of this series, and I think it's important to think about that physical real estate because it's an artifact too. And every time that they go back to their bookshelf, and even if they're not picking up your book, they're touching that, and then they're thinking about you. I just saw a stat too. Ralph Burns put out, so I haven't researched the stat, but it was something from Google. It said basically, a lot of decisions now take 500 touch points before someone actually makes the decision. So it's just adding to that. And I'm sure that adding that physical touch point adds something to it. That's amazing. And so, and now you have the $1 Million Book out, and get the $1millionbook.org. There's some resources there. Tell me a little bit about, you can get that for free, but tell me about what's in the book.
So, my book writing journey started back in 2014 when I wrote the first of my 5 books. And because I've written 5, I've kind of honed a process around it. I'm a recovering engineer, so we reverse engineered the book writing process. It's a lot less creativity, a lot more process than you would believe. And that's allowed me to be able to write a couple of my books in as little as, I think the record I've got right now is 8 hours for a book that's about 100 pages. And that's flying, but we've created this process where regular people who aren't professional writers can write their book in about 30 minutes a day over 30 days. And the $1 Million Book outlines not only how to do that, but we lay out what should go in your book, because there's a structure and a format for a really great lead generating business book. And so it's all in there. And then we talk about how to market it. In fact, we give you our 3 most effective marketing approaches in the book. And so it's really a complete system for not only writing the book, but what to put in it and then how to go use it to get clients.
Love it. And so, yeah, that's getthemilliondollarbook.org. Obviously, if you haven't downloaded the series, that'll be in the series. There'll be a link to it. There'll be a link to it down below if you're watching YouTube. Link in the show notes. There's just links everywhere. But when you're, I'm writing the book and I'm all excited about it. Should I be, because I know there's book launches. Are you doing a pre-launch with your books, or are you just waiting until it's done? So
we've done different things with all of the books. So we kind of treat our business like a laboratory. And every time we do, another iteration, it's like we're going back in the lab so we can see what works this time, and bring that back to our clients. So for this book, we did a pre-launch of an early version of the book, which we really hadn't done a pre-launch before. We did a pre-launch back in the spring. So about 3 months before the official launch. That actually caused us to change the title of the book, which was kind of interesting. So the $1 Million Book was not the original title. And it also caused us to add a chapter, which we'd never done before. So yeah, we're always doing things and learning. But the pre-launch was great because it pretty much funded everything we had invested in creating the book. And then the launch has been amazing. We're doing another little experiment. So for those who go get the book, they'll get invited to what we call our 5-day Write Your $1 Million Book Accelerator, where it's kind of like a free week of coaching with me and our team that we run periodically. And you'll get invited to one of those where you can actually get the process started, and then whether you work with us or not, you'll be kind of starting off on the right foot.
Love it. Yeah, that's fantastic. It's really cool. I mean, I love that you're experimenting with it. I think that it's important too. And like to test it out. And that's the value of working with agencies, with companies like yourself, is that you're seeing a ton of experiments. So, instead of just doing it by yourself and DIYing it and grabbing all the stuff, you're seeing that and you bring all that knowledge into that. So now I want to talk about this, the unsexy way to make a ton of money with your books, because I think it makes so much sense and it's super simple, but not necessarily easy. I guess it is easy. Tell me how to do that.
Well, so this is the unsexiest way you could market your book, but it is probably one of the most effective, particularly if you're in a business where you're going after clients that are really high value. So you're not looking for 10,000 clients a year. You're looking for the 10 really great, amazing clients this month or this quarter or this year. And what we found is one of the most effective ways to do that is to take a copy of your book and take a note card. I keep them on my desk. In fact, I've got a note card right here. I write on a note card like this in my own handwriting, a little personal note to somebody that I want to work with that I think would be a great fit for our process. And I send them a copy of my book. And what I coach our clients to do is just do that every day. Make it a habit. We call it the book a day habit. And if you do that over the course of a year, just on your working days, you're going to hit 210 prospects with your most valuable piece of marketing. Now, there aren't many other ways you could do that for that kind of investment. I mean, you're maybe $5 all in per contact. So $1,000, you've hit 200 prospects. Where else could you do that?
No. I mean, yeah. And it's the exact prospect that you want to talk to. I think that's the most important part. Yeah, $5 a lead in Facebook now is actually pretty cheap. But it's like, how good are those leads? And what do you have to do to nurture them? And what do you have to do to build up your authority and make sure you're a real person? But the book, it's in their hands now. And it's like, wow. And so how fast have you seen that work?
I've seen it work within a week, literally. So one of our clients, we finished his book in November of last year. And this guy is, he's the #1 results coach for independent insurance agencies across the U.S. So he's been doing this for a long time, but he'd never written a book. And he told me afterwards, like, I had no idea what the impact was going to be. So he really buys into it. He starts with the book a day process, and he's sending it out to not only prospects, but influencers. And he gets it in front of one influencer. He gets a phone call a few days later and says, I got your book. It's great. And I've got a conference coming up with 250 independent insurance agency owners, and I'd like for you to come and speak. We're going to make your book the theme of this 2-day event. And so he went and spoke in front of 250 ideal prospects, all for the cost of mailing a book. He got some ROI on that. He got a few clients out of that speaking engagement, and also now has got a more permanent referral relationship with that partner. And so all of these things just pay such huge dividends. The thing about a book is you take all of your wisdom and your expertise, and because you've packaged it up in a way that's easy to share, which most people don't do. Most people take all of their best ideas and they put it into the most expensive possible package themselves. And then they got to go out one by one and try and sell the idea. We flip that completely around. We say, let's put all the best thinking into this book, into this really easy to share package. Now let's let the ideas go out and sell you. And when you put those ideas out to people, you give them such an easy way to share you. And so we see with our clients, they'll go from, we had a financial advisor here recently who was getting maybe one or two. I asked him, how many referrals you get a month? It's like 0 to 2. Okay. That's not very many, particularly when you're in a relationship business, right? That's what all financial advisors will tell you. So we teach him our referral method for sharing his book, and he gets 11 referrals in a day and appointments with 3 of them. And it's a process that now puts him in control of his referral flow. Before, they were just sitting back and hoping that somebody would remember to share them. Now he's got an entire process that he's in control of, and they're just generating referrals like clockwork.
Wow. And it's phenomenal. It makes them an authority. It transforms it. And also, because with that authority, especially for financial advisors, they need to keep that authority going, right? Because it's that longevity of keeping someone as the financial advisor is low. Wow. That's amazing ROI. So I want to get my book started. How do I do this with you all? You said, and how long does it take?
So our process is designed to get you done in 90 days. So from I have no book to I'm landing my first client in about 90 days. And we work with people in 2 ways. So some people just don't want to have any part of the writing. That's great. We've got a team of writers, and we've got a process to kind of pull all of your knowledge and wisdom out of your head. We have other people who say, you know what, I really, I want the accomplishment of having written it myself. And so we'll take you through that process, but you're not going to go through it alone. You're going to get daily support and feedback on the book and the content and all of that. And then, our team is there to do great cover design and, build your marketing plan out and all of that stuff. So, so it's a lot of fun.
Love it. I love it. So, and should we just go get themilliondollarbook.com or .org? Sorry.
Yeah, that's the best place to go because, before we ever work with anybody, I want them to read the book. I want them to see our philosophy and our approach. And if you get the book, there's a page in the back that'll tell you how to get in touch with us. And there are emails that you'll get that'll tell you how to get in touch with us. And then you can apply to be one of our next authors. And we'd love to talk with you.
Love it. All right. So we'll put a link to all that in the show notes. And Steve, where's the best place to follow you on the interwebs?
So if you go to unstoppableceo.net, that's kind of our other site. And that's the home of the Unstoppable CEO podcast. I've interviewed 290 experts from all around the internet, really smart people. And if you really want to learn from the best in business, that's a great place to go. And hopefully soon to be the famous Iron Garlic.
The famous, yeah. I will definitely be on that. I was just excited to get you on this book marketing series. I know a lot of people you've worked with obviously get great results, and it's, 90 days to getting results, long-term results too. A book really doesn't last for a long time. It really doesn't go it's not like PPC that you stop paying and it goes away, right?
Yeah. Well, so my first book, which is now 8 years old, within the last 2 months, we've gotten 3 clients who got that book. One of them told me, yeah, He held it up on the sales call. We were on Zoom, and he held it up and he said, "Here, I got your book, your first book, like 5 or 6 years ago. I've moved it 4 times. Who moves your marketing materials 4 times and keeps them and then comes back?" So
perfect. Well, Steve, this has been great. We'll put a link to all this stuff in the show notes. Thank you so much for being on the book marketing series on the Garlic Marketing Show.
Thanks so much for having me.
And thank you for taking Steve and I on your journey. This has been On Garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.